Love has always been one of the most enigmatic and disturbing themes in human history. Poets exalted it as the force that moves the heavens and the stars. Philosophers feared it as a dangerous illusion. Psychologists tried to decipher it as drive and symptom. Religious people sanctified it as the supreme virtue, and artists turned it into tragedy and redemption. But the question that truly puts us before the abyss is this: can love be judged within the common categories of good and evil? Or is it, as Nietzsche suggested, something that escapes them entirely? To say that love is beyond good and evil does not mean to relativize everything, as if there were no difference between caring and hurting, between nurturing and destroying. On the contrary, it means recognizing that love in its essence is such a radical, primordial force that it escapes conventional moral categories. It does not fit into the binary schemes we use to organize the world. It is instead that which founds, that which exceeds, that which creates values and destroys values, that which breaks boundaries while at the same time raising new ones. Love is a paradox. It makes us feel at once invincible and fragile, exalted and ruined. It is a force that both grounds us in the body and lifts us beyond ourselves. Plato imagined love as the longing of the soul for the eternal, a remembrance of a unity lost before our birth. Freud reduced it to sublimated desire, a disguised form of our primal instincts. Nietzsche, in contrast, treated it as a dangerous intoxication, capable of creating and destroying entire worlds of meaning. And yet, despite so many interpretations, one thing remains: love refuses to be imprisoned by a single definition. Love, when it truly appears, shatters the order of our lives. It breaks routines, defies our careful plans, and exposes our illusions of control. It puts us in front of the unpredictable. That is why so many cultures try to domesticate it, turning it into marriage contracts, moral rules, or religious rituals. But what erupts in the heart does not always submit to these forms. We can think, for example, of tragic loves. Romeo and Juliet defied the feud between their families, and precisely in this defiance, their passion revealed itself stronger than any convention. Was it good or evil? The question becomes secondary. What mattered was the intensity of a feeling that overflowed categories, showing that in certain experiences the human being touches something untamable. Nietzsche, in Beyond Good and Evil and Thus Spoke Zarathustra, insisted that life itself cannot be reduced to human moral codes. Life is will to power, not domination of others, but expansion, overflowing creation of new values. Love, in this sense, is a manifestation of this will. It throws us out of ourselves, makes us creators of possibilities, pushes us to go beyond our limits. But love also carries a risk: to lose oneself in the other, to dissolve one's identity, to be destroyed by rejection, by absence, by betrayal. Precisely because it is beyond good and evil, it cannot be guaranteed as pure salvation. It is abyss and summit at once. For this reason, Nietzsche looked at love with both fascination and suspicion. He knew it could elevate but also enslave, liberate but also consume. This ambivalence is not exclusive to philosophy. Mystics like Rumi and St. John of the Cross described love as fire that burns and purifies, as wound that hurts and heals. For them, divine love was not a gentle comfort, but a radical experience that tears apart the soul to make it infinite. Again, beyond good and evil, because it destroys the ego only to open it to a greater reality. Modern psychology, on the other hand, sees in love an essential element for human development. Attachment theories show that without the experience of being loved in childhood, the psyche collapses. Love here is not moral choice, but biological necessity. The nervous system itself is shaped by bonds of affection. Yet even in this scientific approach, love transcends categories. It is foundation, not judgment. To live love fully, then, is to accept its dangerous nature. It is to embrace vulnerability. It is to let ourselves be wounded and healed. It is to know that there is no safety net. As Erich Fromm said, love is an art, and like every art, it demands discipline, patience, practice, but also a leap into the unknown. To love is to risk transformation, and no transformation comes without pain. Consider parents loving their child. This love brings joy, but also constant worry, endless sacrifice, hidden suffering. Lovers who give themselves fully to each other experience ecstasy, but also jealousy, insecurity, and longing. Those who lose a beloved confront grief, one of the most intense human pains, yet proof of the depth of the bond lived. None of this fits neatly into good or evil. It belongs to the realm of the tragic, the profoundly human. Love, therefore, is a continuous lesson in handling the intensity of life. It shows that we are not meant to live in neutral balance, but to engage in experiences that transform us. It forces us to accept that life is not only about security, but about intensity, surrender, and vulnerability. In this sense, love is essential. It saves us from nihilism, from indifference, from a tepid existence. It reminds us that life is worth living, even in suffering. When we say that love is beyond good and evil, we mean it belongs to another logic, the logic of creation, of intensity, of life itself. It cannot be tamed by simple rules because it is that which breaks rules. It cannot be reduced to good or evil because it is that which makes life worth living, even in its pain. Nietzsche, Rilke, Freud, Sartre, mystics, poets, all touched on this truth in their ways. Love is a risk worth taking, a pain that elevates, an abyss that teaches us to fly. To say that love is beyond good and evil is to recognize it as the most radical experience we can live. It is not about classifying it as right or wrong, useful or useless, but about accepting it as a force that unsettles us, that exposes us, and because of that, makes us grow. Love asks courage. Courage to be vulnerable, to face our shadows, to create new meanings when everything seems to collapse. It does not guarantee eternal happiness, but gives something greater, the intensity of living without reservations. And perhaps that is exactly what saves us from emptiness, from exhaustion, from indifference. Love is where life shows its truest face, beautiful and painful, creative and destructive, yet always reminding us that being alive is above all a privilege. To love is to leap into the abyss knowing we might fall, and still choosing to jump, because in the end it is only in the risk of love that we discover the greatness of existence.